People often say, "At least you stayed for the children." It sounds like a noble sacrifice, a testament to parental love. But have you ever stopped to ask what staying truly costs? Not just for the parents, but for the very children they're trying to protect. Let's talk about Connell and Rachel. They stayed from the outside. Their family was the picture of stability. 2 parents, 2 children, a lovely home in a quiet neighborhood. There were no public fights, no dramatic scenes, no scandals for the neighbors to whisper about. Friends and family admired them, often saying they were lucky to have such a solid foundation. But inside the walls of that clean, orderly house, the warmth had long since vanished. The stability everyone saw was just a carefully constructed illusion. Their mornings were filled with a silence that was anything but peaceful. It was a heavy, suffocating quiet. Connell would get ready for work, knotting his tie in the mirror, while Rachel packed the children's lunch boxes in the kitchen. They moved around each other like strangers sharing a temporary space. They only spoke when absolutely necessary, and their words were always careful, measured, and distant. Simple questions about groceries or bills were exchanged with the cold efficiency of a business transaction. The love that once filled the air had been replaced by a tense, unspoken agreement to just get through the day. One morning, as Connell was about to leave, his son Daniel looked up at him with wide, hopeful eyes. "Daddy, are you coming to my school play today?" Connell paused, his hand on the doorknob. He looked at his son, then glanced briefly at Rachel, who was busy wiping the counter, her back to them. "I'll try, son," he said, the words feeling hollow even as he spoke them. Rachel said nothing. She didn't turn around. She didn't need to. She knew what "I'll try" meant. Trying had become a habit in their home, and disappointment was its loyal companion, trying to smile at family gatherings, trying to sound cheerful on the phone, trying to pretend everything was fine for the children. But the effort was draining, and the facade was cracking. They didn't have explosive arguments anymore. The fiery passion that fuels a fight had burned out long ago. Instead, they punished each other with silence. A missed school event was met with a quiet dinner. A forgotten anniversary was met with another night of turning away from each other in bed. The silence was a weapon, and it was far more damaging than any shouted word. Their conversations were stripped down to logistics: bills, school fees, and coordinating schedules. At night they lay in the same bed, but an invisible wall, cold and impenetrable, ran right down the middle. They were closer physically than anyone else in the world, yet they were miles apart, and their children, Daniel and Zara, they noticed everything. Children are far more perceptive than we give them credit for. They don't just hear the words we say. They feel the emotions we try to hide. They absorb the atmosphere of their home like a sponge. The tension started to manifest in their behavior. Daniel, once a happy-go-lucky boy, became aggressive at school. He started getting into fights, talking back to his teachers. He was acting out, screaming for the attention he wasn't getting in his quiet, cold home. His sister, Zara, went the opposite way. She became unusually quiet, retreating into her own little world. She stopped talking about her day, stopped asking questions. One child was acting out, the other was disappearing. Both were showing signs of distress. One evening, after another call from Daniel's teacher, Connell's frustration boiled over. He slammed a file down on the table and looked at Rachel, his voice tight with anger. Why is Daniel always misbehaving? What is wrong with him? Rachel, who had been staring blankly at the television, finally turned to face him. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the silence like a knife, because he lives in a house where nobody talks. The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. In the hallway, the children who had been quietly playing froze. They had heard. They always heard. That single, honest sentence shattered the illusion they had been so carefully maintaining. It was a moment of painful clarity. The silence that followed wasn't their usual weaponized, quiet. It was the silence of truth, raw and exposed. This moment, this brutal honesty, was the turning point. It was followed by another call from the school, this time from the school counselor, who was concerned about both children. Hesitantly, Connell and Rachel agreed to a meeting. Sitting in the counselor's office, they told their story. They talked about the slow decay of their love, the silent resentment, and their decision to stay together. For the kids, after listening patiently, the counselor didn't offer easy solutions or place blame. Instead, she looked at them both and asked a single powerful question. What kind of marriage are you teaching your children to accept? The silence that followed was the heaviest of all. It was a silence filled with realization and regret. That question hit them with the force of a physical blow. They had been so focused on providing a two-parent household, on preventing the trauma of divorce, that they never stopped to consider what they were actively modeling for their children every single day. They were teaching Daniel and Zara that marriage was a cold, silent arrangement, that love was disposable, that partnership meant living as lonely roommates. They were teaching their children to accept a life devoid of warmth, affection, and emotional connection. The very pain they thought they were shielding their children from was the lesson they were engraving onto their hearts. They realized they had stayed to protect their children from a broken home, but in doing so, they had created one. A different kind, but broken all the same. Leaving was not going to be easy. The logistics, the emotions, the judgment from others, it was a daunting mountain to climb. But they finally understood that staying in a loveless, silent marriage was harder. It was a slow, daily poisoning of everyone in the house. So they made the difficult choice to separate, but they did it differently. They chose not to be enemies fighting over assets and schedules. They chose to be co-parents, united in their love for their children. The house became physically quieter with only one parent at a time, but the atmosphere became lighter. The heavy, oppressive tension lifted. When Connell came to pick up the kids, he and Rachel could have a brief, friendly chat at the door. When Rachel dropped them off, she didn't have to brace for a wall of silence. The children could see their parents smiling at each other again, even if they lived apart. Slowly but surely, things began to change for the better. Daniel's aggression at school subsided. He was still energetic, but the anger was gone. Zara started to emerge from her shell. She began chattering away in the car, telling her parents about her friends and her dreams again. The light returned to her eyes. Connell and Rachel learned an incredibly important and often overlooked truth. A broken home is not always one where the parents separate. Sometimes the most broken home is the one where parents stay together, but love has died, where silence replaces laughter and duty replaces joy. True stability for a child isn't about the parents being under the same roof. It's about being surrounded by love, security, and emotional honesty, even if that means love exists in two separate, happy homes instead of one miserable one. The goal isn't to just stay for the children. It's to show them what a healthy, loving relationship looks like, so they can build one for themselves one day. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content that explores the complexities of life and relationships.